Hello, my name is Charlie Chase. I'm a civil engineering undergrad here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I've done the honor of educating myself on the car accident issue that we have in our society today and possible solutions that we can incorporate within our vehicles and roadways to resolve this issue. I would first off like to ask you guys, how many of you guys know someone or actually have been in a car accident? Interesting. Well, it turns out that Esurance, in an article for the U.S. National Transportation Systems, reported that 77% of people with 5 years prior driving experience have been in a car accident. And throughout this presentation, I will be going over through four main topics. First, artificial intelligence and the technical aspects of it and how they can be introduced within our autonomous vehicles to reduce car crashes in our society and improve all overall safety on the roadways. I will then move into modern technology, the technology that is already incorporated within our vehicles, and then move on towards future technology and solutions, so how we can advance the modern technology that we have today, and also talk about possible future solutions that have not been incorporated yet. And then ending with ethics, what is right and wrong with these solutions and how we can overcome that. So before we go in that, we need to discuss what causes car accidents. And it turns out that distracted driving is the most prevalent cause of car crashes. And this is an engineering problem because human error can be taken out using engineering solutions. This graph right down here is a graph by Jennifer Stowe out of the University of Washington, and she took data from the 2017 Waymo automobile, which is a fully autonomous vehicle produced by Google, and compared it to the conventional car crash rates of 2008 and 2009. So we're going to be focusing just on the blue and green line here. So the blue line demonstrates the conventional car crash rate. Our x-axis is driver's age. So as you can see, the younger drivers tend to be a little worse at driving just because they have less experience. But at their minimum, around 60 years of age, they still have 206 fewer crashes per million miles driven, which just proves to show that autonomous vehicles and just autonomous vehicles can help improve safety in our roadways. Now going into the technical aspects of AI failure. We can see in this bottom left photo that the architecture of an autonomous vehicle is very complex. We have many different ranges of units, such as different sensors, cameras, and such forth. And all this information can go into AI. And for those of you who do not know what artificial intelligence is, it's pretty much like your human brain, honestly. I'm going to kind of try to give you an analogy of how to better understand that, especially in autonomous vehicles. So say we're driving down the road in our fully autonomous vehicle, so hands are off the steering wheel, and I see a squirrel that is crossing the street and is in my way. I figure that the autonomous vehicle is smart enough that it's going to stop and save the squirrel, but it doesn't. So right at the last second, I override it, I press on the brake, and it stops for me. So what the AI can do is it takes in all the information that it took in there. Say it portrayed the squirrel as just a leaf or something like that. So it just said it wasn't an obstacle. But the knowledge that it knows now that when I did stop, it will now, next time it sees a squirrel on the side going into the way, it will stop for you. And the beautiful thing about AI is it can communicate with other vehicles that have the same AI in it, and those vehicles now have that knowledge too. But we'll dive a little bit deeper in the process of how that works in this next slide. So this is the functionality of AI in an ECU. Don't be frightened by this right flow chart over here. I'll go through it. But the AI acts like an ECU, which is an electronic control unit, which all of our vehicles today have. But the introduction to AI within the ECU will be a game changer. So what this is using our analogy with the squirrel, it starts out with capturing data. So it captures what it thinks was a leaf, but it's really a squirrel. Goes down and it either detects an obstacle or it doesn't. And in this case with the squirrel, it did not detect the obstacle. But let's say it was actually a person instead. So the obstacle detected, it classifies it as a pedestrian, goes down, and the information goes into the ECU. And if it's pedestrian, ECU controls the brakes and clutch to safely stop for it. For other examples are traffic lights, so it will engage its stop-go maneuver. Or if it's another vehicle, it can change lanes and safely go around them. But the big key about this and what can cause it to fail is the speed at which this goes. And technology of trying to get these processors to move fast is always in motion. Um, but say it's very slow and it misses a pedestrian by a tenth of a second, that could cause his life, unfortunately. So now moving into modern preventative technology. Whoops. Yeah, modern preventative technology. Um, we have many different technologies to help us stay safe on the roadway, such as the forward collision systems, which all of you may have. What that is if you're speeding up to a vehicle that is stopped and you're not pressing on the brakes, it will alarm you, and if you don't press the brake, it will at least a little bit for you. There's also lane departure technology, which is, my opinion, probably one of the greatest because a lot of side swipe crashes happen. A lot of crashes happen from the side, and if you're moving out of your lane, it will direct you back by taking over the wheel or alarming you to do so. Obviously, the rear view camera is very helpful and blind spot detection as well. But all of these modern preventative technologies still incorporate human error, and the environment may not always be cooperable, which could deter these technologies. So then moving on to the future technology and solutions. As we were talking about before, autonomous vehicles moving to an autonomous society can help reduce car crashes, roadways, adjusting the modern roadways that we have right now and introducing them to a couple of different aspects to help them stay safe will be important. And then lastly, the tunnel systems in high population cities. So first with autonomous vehicles. And as said before, AI in autonomous vehicles needs to communicate with other AI in order for it to be as effective as possible. Right now we only have 1,400 fully autonomous vehicles in the US, which is very low. But as they are expected to grow in 2030 through the USNT, the National Transportation Surveying Group, they said that it will start to grow exponentially in 2030, which will then grow the AI. Right here is a little example of the benefits of self-driving. Safer roads, obviously they don't give off any emissions because they're electric, which is better for the environment. And with an abundance of them, they will become the smartest machines in our environment with that AI. The next is roadways. Roadways it can incorporate many different little aspects to thoroughly improve the safety of the roads. First off is probably the most practical, most cost-effective. It's called the safety edge. All 95% of roads are paved with asphalt cement in the U.S. And in order to make them safer, you can simply have a 30-degree decline down to the base layer. And what this will do is instead of if you drive off the side and getting tumbled into the ditch, you won't have a sudden jerk and you'll be able to safely revert yourself back onto the road. The second is the corridor access management, which is right here. It pinpoints entrance and exit spots on the road, which allows for safer exiting off of a busy highway. These are mostly for high-speed traffic. So instead of stopping and not knowing if someone's going to turn or not, you can just safely yield to the people and get on your way. And then lastly, our road diets. These are mostly for city roads that are slower moving traffic but can still incorporate a lot of it. So this is an example of a 4-lane two-way road in a city, and then it is reverted to 2 designated single-way roads, 1 turning lane for both sides, and then incorporates a biking lane, which is very important in our society because we're trying to revert from gas emissions. So incorporating a bike lane might push towards fewer emissions. And then lastly is tunnel systems, which is probably the most impractical to incorporate in our entire U.S. society, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it is by far the safest form of travel. So like I said before, or I haven't said it yet, but the Boring Company is Elon Musk, and this is called the Loop, and it acts very similar to a subway. But instead of having to make stops every couple of minutes, you get to directly go to your location at a very fast pace. Um, Although it is the safest alternative, like I said before, it's by far the most expensive. It's hard to imagine tunnels of transportation going through our entire U.S., but there is zero emissions. Now we'll talk about the ethics. So people view autonomous vehicles as not the greatest thing as of right now, just maybe because there's not as many of them. But here's a few statistics. Looking at the U.S., we're about around 50% of people saying that autonomous vehicles are not safe. So 50% think that they are. Not And then over here is an ethical dilemma that I found online. It's pretty basic. It's kind of an ethics dilemma that we've heard before. So if a car's going, say you only have 3 passengers, and there's a group of 10 passengers, but you can't stop, which way do you go? Do you eliminate the 3 that are driving, or do you take out the 5 and protect yourself? So this is what the ethics in autonomous vehicles would have to undergo, because they saw that, say it was really icy, they don't know what to do, they would have to make the decision very quickly and very rapidly in order to make the correct decision. And in conclusion, I believe that moving towards an autonomous society will be the most beneficial for all of us, because not only will it make our roads safer, but also our environment safer. Socially, it will have to undergo a lot more testing. Like I said, in 2030 we'll be expected to see a lot more of those. But also practically incorporating those roadway advancements, such as the safety edge, the road diet, and road corridor will be a very beneficial way to improve safety without spending too much money and too much time on other alternatives. As said before, the ethics need to be severely considered in order for it to be accepted within our society today. But all in all, incorporating these preventative measures will reduce car accidents in the U.S. and fatalities.